Hey guys, just over here trying to get the document camera to be, working. So we are starting notes today. There is no worksheet or handout for you to print out if you are. Remember, if you guys aren't, and hi again, here's my hand. Here's my coffee today. So yay for coffee. If you guys aren't able to print out worksheets, that's totally fine. Like you don't need to. So, yesterday or I don't know, whenever you did the notes, this was it. If you don't have a printer or don't want to print it out, you can just copy this, all of the text into your notes. It's totally fine. So today is just going to be on, I'm just doing it in my spiral. You guys can do it in yours, just on a blank piece of paper, whatever you guys want to do, whatever fits your routine. So today we're kind of really skipping around in chapter 8, but I feel like it kind of is the best thing in how to learn this material. So we are going to be doing 8.8 today, which is factoring by grouping. Okay, so let's get that title highlighted because, to keep things normal here. Okay. Oh, that looks like terrible highlighting, but it actually doesn't look as bad on mine, which is weird. But that's fine. Okay, so factoring is really important. We're going to be using it kind of throughout this entire factoring unit. And but what we're going to be focusing on right now is we use this method when factoring just only a 4-term polynomial. So I'm going to write that as a little asterisk here. Use this method when factoring a 4-term polynomial. Okay, so that means that there are just 4 terms there. So I'm going to do steps, and then I'm going to do an example. So I'm going to kind of split my paper in half here. Okay, so my steps, let's see. I'm going to put my steps here. Actually, I'm going to do my example here. I'm going to shake it up a bit. Okay, so example, and then my steps are going to be on this side. Okay, so my example that we're going to be using today is going to be kind of a basic one, and then we'll kind of amp it up a little bit in some of our examples later. But our first example problem is going to be x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 14. So just like it says up here, use this method when factoring a 4-term polynomial. There's 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms. So we're going to use this factoring or grouping method to start factoring here. So your first step is kind of easy. You don't really have to do much, but your first step is to group the first 2 terms together. So group the first 2 terms together. Oh, I can't spell. Okay. Group the first 2 terms together and the last 2 terms together. So we're almost going to be separating it, but not really separating it. So all that means is to group the first 2 terms together and the last 2 terms together. All that means is we're just going to look at the first 2 terms separately, And then we're going to look at the second or the last two terms separately as well. So like I said, really easy. You just kind of like have to think about these two terms as one group and these two terms as a completely separate group, and then we'll put it back together at the end. Okay, so our second step is going to be to factor out, and this is going to be bringing what we did in the last note. So factor out a separate GCF from each group. Okay, so GCF, remember, greatest common factor. So we look at x cubed and we look at 7x squared. And we think, what's the GCF, or what's the greatest common factor that we can factor out of this? So x cubed and 7x squared. Well, first, like this is a 1, and we can't factor out, we can factor out a 1, but we don't need to write the 1 right now. So I just really look at my variables. They both have an x cubed, and x squared. And we know, okay, the smallest of those two is what we take out, 3 versus 2. So we're going to take out an x squared. I know I'm going to like jump down a lot, but I'm just going to kind of follow what I have, how I've written out the steps. So if I factored out an x squared from x cubed, and if you guys need to still like, kind of mentally put in that like divided by x squared, divide this one by x squared, you can, just like we did on the last notes. Or if you can do it in your head, that's great too, whatever like you feel most comfortable with. So x cubed divided by x squared, when we have 3, we take away 2, we're left with 1. And then 7x squared divided by x squared, well, what happens? X squared divided by x squared is 1, and 7 times 1 is just 7. And that's it. That's our first kind of step with looking at just this group. Now, one thing that's really important is you guys always, no matter what the sign here is in the middle, so the sign here is a plus, we always want to bring that plus down. If it was a minus, we'd want to bring that minus down. No matter what the sign is in the middle, we're taking that into consideration for here. Okay, so we look at the second group. We're looking at now 2x plus 14 and trying to figure out a GCF from 2x and 14. Well, right off the bat, I know I'm not pulling out an x because this is the only term that has an x and the 14 doesn't. So then I look at my numbers, 2 and 14, and I think, what's my GCF? And remember my trick, I always, like I said in the last video, I said, look at the smaller of the two numbers. So we know 2 goes evenly into 2, but does 2 go evenly into 14? And it does. So we're going to factor out a 2. And then what's left? Again, if you guys need to write the like divided by 2, great. If you can do it mentally, great too. So 2x divided by 2 is just x, and 14 divided by 2 is 7. Now, hopefully you're noticing something. What you should be noticing is that these actually are exactly the same. If they are not the same, you've done something wrong and you need to go back and check your work, because if these are not exactly the same, we can't move forward with our next steps. So maybe we can like write a little note to ourselves to the side. So these must, can you see that? Nope. Okay. So these must be the same. To move forward with the steps. Okay, so that's really, really important for us to be able to move forward with our next step. So our next step is once we've like factored it like separately, now we're looking it back as like one whole expression. And so our third step is to factor out a common binomial. And if you remember, sorry, that looks terrible. Binomial, let's try and fix that. Binomial means two terms, right? Binomial means like two separate terms. And so this is a binomial, this is a binomial. So we factor out a common binomial from the whole expression. So now we're looking at the whole thing again. I don't know if you guys can hear my music, and if it's super distracting, please email me and tell me that it's like distracting you, I guess. I don't know. I just like have to have music going, but I can turn it down or whatever. But if you can't hear it and you're like, there's no music, we don't hear anything, great. Okay. So third step, factor out a common binomial from the whole expression. So I'm actually going to look at this. So my common binomial here, if just like we set up here, look at these two. They are exactly the same, x plus 7, x plus 7. And so that is my common binomial. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out the x plus 7. Now I have to think about what's left. So if I factored out from x squared times x plus 7, the x plus 7, what's left is the x squared. And then if I factored out from 2 times x plus 7, the x plus 7, what's left is the plus 2. And that's that. That's our answer. We did it. We finished the work. So that is my final answer. Now remember, how can we check our work? You can always check your work by distributing. So you can always check your work by distributing. So we can do that. Like we can just for this one, we're not going to do it every time. So don't freak out here. But just for this one, we can kind of check our work. So x times x squared, if you guys use the box method, you can write the box method out just to kind of like refresh our memory on multiplying. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times 2 is 2x. 7 times x squared is 7x squared, and 7 times 2 is 14. Now, this isn't in standard form, so if we were to write it in standard form, remember that's like highest exponent to lowest exponent. It would be x cubed first, because that's my highest exponent, then 7x squared. That's my next highest exponent, and then 2x, and then 14. And let's double check. X cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 14. X cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 14. We are good. So you can always check your work with this stuff. It's great. Factoring is super, super crucial for everything that we are going to be doing for the rest of the year. And you don't like factoring doesn't go away in any of your math classes. So I know that like right now it's hard. We're not together. But I really take the time, try and understand this. And if you guys have any questions, please, please, please come to office hours. So for first period, our first office hour will be Friday from 2 to 3. And for second period, it will be Thursday from 2 to 3. And I'll send out an email with that information too, so you can always check it. And then we'll go from there. So let's do some more example problems. We're just going to get a lot of examples in today. And we will get started with those. Okay, so let's get started on number 1. So number 1 is going to be x cubed plus x squared plus 5x plus 10. Okay, so with this one, again, our first step is just like it was up here, group the first 2 terms together and the last 2 terms together. So that's going to be kind of the first thing you do. And you don't have to draw these little lines underneath, but sometimes it just helps for you to see that like we're looking at them separately. So, you do you. And then once we're looking at those as separate entities, we're going to factor out a GCF from each group. So x cubed plus x squared. I want you guys to think, what is the GCF there? So between x cubed and x squared, the GCF is x squared. I don't know. It's like I'm still waiting for a response, but clearly, hopefully you're saying it to yourself when we're going through these notes together. So I don't know. That's my hope for you. Okay, so we're going to factor out x squared, right? Because we have x. There's no number. You don't have to worry about it. And the lowest exponent is x squared. And so I'm not going to write out anymore this like dividing thing that we did up here. But if you need to, please write it out. I'm just going to do it kind of more in my head now. So x cubed divided by x squared, if we have 3 and take away 2, we're left with x1. And then x squared divided by x squared, well, it's something divided by itself, so we're left with 1. Okay. I realized I wrote the problem down wrong. This is not a good start. Okay, so I'm just going to we're going to fix it together. I'm going to change this one, this last number, to be 5. Sorry about that. I read my own problems too fast. So cool. Okay, so that should be it now. Okay, so remember we always take our middle sign, so it's a plus, and we're gonna bring that down. So no matter what it is, we bring it down. And then I look at my GCF. My GCF between 5x and 5. Well, okay, they both don't have an x, so we can't factor that out, but they both have 5x and 5 both have a 5. Okay, so then we think about what's left. So 5x divided by 5 is just the x's left, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So remember, you've got to look to see, are these exactly the same? X plus 1, they are the same? Yes. If they weren't the same like it was going to be, then there would be something wrong. Like Mr. Imperio wrote the problem wrong, which, we're working on it. So because these are the same, we move to the next step where we factor out our common binomial. My common binomial is x plus 1. And then we write what's left. So what is left? From x squared times x plus 1, what's left is this x squared. And what's left from 5 times x plus 1 is this plus 5. Now, if you guys wrote it flipped, if you wrote it as x squared plus 5 times x plus 1, that's totally fine too. So if you wrote it like this, that's great too. Like either one is totally right because we're multiplying, right? So these are the same answers. So when you're multiplying, right, it doesn't matter what order you multiply it in. If I switch it, that's fine. It's just that x squared plus 5 has to be in one parentheses, and x plus 1 has to be in the other parentheses. Okay, so for number 2, I'm going to have you guys, I want you guys to try this one on your own, and I promise you I'm going to write this one down correctly. Actually, yeah, so I'm going to have you guys do this one on your own. I'm going to have you guys try this one. Try it on your own and then check your work with mine. So, okay, this one is going to be 2x cubed plus x squared plus 8x plus 4. Okay, so 2x cubed plus x squared plus 8x plus 4. So if you guys are feeling good, feeling confident, pause it here. Try number 2 on your own, and then unpause it when you're done. So pause here, try it on your own, and then come back and see if you guys got it correct. Okay, so hopefully you've paused it, and now you're coming back to check your work. If not, and you're still struggling, that's fine too. Just, I'll explain it still. So again, we first start by splitting it into our 2 groups. 2x cubed plus x squared is one group, and 8x plus 4 is another group. Okay, then comes the GCF. So we look at our groups separately. 2x cubed and x squared, the GCF there, 2x cubed, x squared, they both have an x, so we take out the smallest of the two. X squared is the smaller. So 2x cubed divided by x squared, well, the 2 just stays there. And then x cubed divided by x squared is just x. And then x squared divided by x squared is 1. Okay, then we always take down our sign. So plus, we bring down the plus. And then we look for our GCF. So between 8x plus 4, remember my trick? I always look at my smallest number first. I think, does 4 go evenly into 4? Well, yeah. And then does 4 go evenly into 8? And it does. So 4 is my GCF that we're going to take out. So 8x divided by 4 is 2x, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now, here's where we have to double check to make sure. Are these the same? 2x plus 1, 2x plus 1, yay, they're the same. So we're going to write that 2x plus 1. And then what's left? So what's left is really just what's not highlighted. So the x squared is left and the plus 4 is left. So that's my second binomial, x squared plus 4. And that's my final answer. So I don't think I'm going to have room on the bottom of my page to keep going. So I'm going to flip it and start a new problem. So hopefully that one, you tried on your own. You're feeling good with it, because we're going to add in a little bit something different on the next one. So I'm going to flip it over. Sorry. Oh, I'm in a whole new section. How exciting. And I feel like we should be on 3. Oh, and I'm going to fold my page because I like things to be neat. Okay, so for 3, like I said, we're going to bring in something just a tad different, and that's going to be a minus in between. So we're going to have 3x cubed plus 15x squared minus 2x minus 10. So first step, same thing, same deal. All the steps are always the same. We look at our 2 groups separately. So the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms. So not much really changes with this. We just have to be careful with now that minus in between. So 3x cubed plus 15x squared. I want you guys to think about what's your common GCF here. So your common GCF between 3 and 15, well, 3. And then x cubed and x squared is x squared. So if you, again, need to write out that like dividing, and maybe let's do it this time to kind of help us, you can. So what's left? Well, let's divide. So divide by 3x squared. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1. And x cubed divided by x squared is just x. And then if we do it to the next one, so 15x squared divided by 3x squared, well, 15 divided by 3 is 5, and x squared divided by x squared is 1. So that's it. Now, here's where we need to be careful. We still bring down that middle sign. That middle sign now is a negative, not a plus. So that does change things here. So we still will look at, okay, what's our GCF between 2x and 10? Well, again, hint, look at the smaller of the two numbers. It's 2. And so does 2 go into 10? It sure does. So we're going to bring down the 2. Now, what's left and what we're actually going to be dividing by is this minus 2. So every term, negative 2x is going to be divided by negative 2. And negative 10 is going to be divided by negative 2. So what that means is our signs are going to change. Negative 2x divided by negative 2 becomes a positive x. And a negative 10 divided by a negative 2 becomes a positive 5. So that sign in the middle is really important. And so now we're at a good spot. We're at a spot that we were before, and there's now nothing different. We make sure are my binomials the same, and they sure are, x plus 5 and x plus 5. We write that as 1. And then we write what's left. So what's left is the 3x squared minus 2. And that is your final answer. Again, remember, you guys can always check to make sure that you did it correctly by distributing. So you can always distribute. Great way to check. It's such a nice thing that like all of these are really straightforward to check. Okay, so we are going to do another one. So my next one is going to be x to the 4th minus x cubed minus 7x plus 7. So again, with this one, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to pause here. I want you guys to try it on your own and see if you feel comfortable with it. So right now, just pause, try it on your own, and then once you're done, unpause it, come back, see how you did. So pause. Okay, so you should be coming back. You should have this one done. And then we're going to go through the steps. So we start off by splitting it into 2 groups and factoring out my GCF. So my GCF between x to the 4th and x cubed, well, they both have an x. There's no numbers. So I look at the smaller one. 4 and 3, the smaller one is x cubed. If I have 4 and I've taken out 3, I'm left with 1x. Now, x cubed divided by x cubed, well, that's something divided by itself is minus 1. That minus just comes down, right? Okay, here's that big thing. We bring down that negative sign. So we bring down that minus. And then I look at 7x plus 7. Well, what's my GCF between 7x and 7? Well, it's like in the name, 7. And then what's left? So remember, you're dividing this by negative 7 and this by negative 7. So negative 7x divided by negative 7 gets me a positive x. And 7 divided by negative 7 gets me a negative 1. And then we're, back to normal. We look to see, are these the same? X minus 1, x minus 1. They sure are, so we're good there. And then we have my final answer, x minus 1 times what's left. And what's left is x cubed minus 7. And that's it. Remember, you guys, if you put x cubed minus 7 first and x minus 1 last, that's totally fine too. So we have 2 more problems and then we are done. So, yay us. Okay, so let's do one more. Not one more, but like another one. Okay, so let's try this one. We have 7x cubed minus 21x squared plus x minus 3. If you guys want to try this one, you can. There's again something like just a little different with this one, but let's, if you want to try it, great. If you want to wait and try it with me, that's great too. So starts out totally the same. We split it into our 2 groups and we look for our GCF. So between 7 and 21, I'm just going to look at the numbers first. Well, I look at my smaller number, and does 7 go into 21? And it does, so we can pull that out. And then I look at my variables, x cubed, x squared. What's the smaller of the 2? X squared. And so what's left, 7 divided by 7 is 1, and x cubed divided by x squared is 1x, or x to the first power, sorry. Okay, so bring down that minus because we're just dividing by a positive, so the signs aren't going to change. 21 divided by 7 is 3, and x squared divided by x squared is 1. So 3 times 1 is just 3. Okay, we always bring down that sign. So it's a plus. Now we're thinking, okay, well, what is my common factor between x and negative 3? And if you're thinking there is none, you're kind of right. But what you're forgetting is there is a number that can divide into any number, and that number is 1. So if there's not a GCF, like a not clear GCF, you can always factor out a 1. And so what's left is exactly this. It's not the same. X divided by 1 is x. Negative 3 divided by 1 is still negative 3. And that's the only kind of, twist with this one. So look to see, are these the same? X minus 3 and x minus 3, and they are. So we can bring that out. And then what's left? 7x squared plus 1. And that's your final answer. Okay. Again, I really, really encourage you guys with every single thing that we're doing here. If for some reason, you're confused on a problem that we're doing either in the notes or on the homework, and you're like, how did that happen? Where did that come from? Please, 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 star it, write a note to yourself, do something, so then you can bring it into our office hours or my office hours and ask me those questions there. Again, this week, it's going to be for first period, it's going to be Friday 2 to 3. And for second period, it's going to be Thursday 2 to 3. And if those times don't work for you, shoot me an email and we can set up our own. We can chat separately. I'm totally fine with that. I just really want you guys to know that even though we're not face to face, I'm still here for you guys. It's still me. I'm still really wanting to help you guys and make sure you guys feel comfortable with all this. So for those of you that are still watching the notes, I I feel like some of you guys might have turned me off by now, but whatever. Rude. Okay, so last problem that we're going to do today. So we have, we're going to make it a little bit difficult. 2x squared y plus 6xy minus x minus 3. If you're thinking oh, that's not difficult, cool, try it on your own. I want you guys, I always encourage you guys throughout this entire process, pause me, try it on your own, see how you do, see how you're feeling with the material, because really that's what matters, is how are you feeling with the material? And then you can always come back and make sure, did you do it right? Did you do it wrong? Where did you go wrong? What was your mistake? It's really good. Okay, so split into 2 groups. Okay, and then Okay, now this one you may be like, oh, what's the GCF here? Take it part by part. Look first at the number, 2 and 6. What number divides evenly into both 2 and 6? Well, I look at my smaller. Does 2 go both also into 6? And it sure does. So that's first part. Then I look at x squared and x. They both have an x in it. So I look for the smaller, 2 and then 1, and I can just take out an x. And then I look at the last term, y and y. They both have a y, and they both only have 1. So I can also take out a 1. And then when I'm factoring it out, I again take it part by part. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. X squared divided by x is x. And y divided by y is 1. So it's really like 1 times x times 1, which is just x. Okay, 6 divided by 2, 3. X divided by x is 1. Y divided by y is 1, so it's just 3. Okay, then it's kind of brings both 3, 4, and 5 all together. So I bring down this minus sign, and I'm thinking, yikes, what can I factor out of x and minus 3? Well, the only number that goes into every single number is 1. But remember here, it's really important we're factoring out a negative 1. So we're thinking, well, what's left when I divide a negative 1 from negative x? And that's a positive 1. And then negative 3, or did I say, or positive x? I don't know if I said 1 or not, but who knows? Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is now positive 3. And now you're thinking, yay, these are the same, and we are so good to go. And so we have x plus 3, and then whatever's left, so 2xy minus 1. And that is my final answer here. And that's the last example we're going to do. I hope this all went smooth. I hope the videos are uploading smoothly. I hope you guys are feeling comfortable. I hope you guys are all doing well. I know I've been watching, as it to be expected, I've been watching a ton of television. Right now, I'm currently watching a terrible show on Bravo. I mean, it's not terrible, but called Summer House. It is just the trash that I always enjoy. So I'll probably be done with it by tomorrow. So, on to a new one. I'll update you guys with my new show next time. But yeah, so I've been watching Summer House on Hulu. So it's really bad reality TV shows. I love it, but so I hope you guys are well. If you guys have any great television recommendations, shoot me an email, send it in the Google Classroom. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how that works, but hope you guys are all doing great, and have a great day. Bye, guys.